Only a moron would believe that this guy's a good negotiator. Only someone who has a below room temperature IQ could ever bring themselves to thinking that this guy has any brains in his head. By now, it's absolutely clear that the diapered orange dementia patient has oatmeal for brains, and even that is being charitable. His so-called ceasefire in Iran is a perfect illustration of how this moron, who should have never been elected, has bankrupted 6, 7, 8 different companies in his history. This is someone who is so unintelligent and so stupid that he doesn't know that he's losing. There's a reason why this guy openly admitted that he likes to surround himself with losers and failures because it makes him feel better. Yes, he actually said that. Check this out and I'll be right back.
I always like to hang around with losers, actually, because it makes me feel better. I hate guys that are very, very successful and you have to listen to their success stories. I like people that like to listen to my success.
That is the perfect illustration of someone who is so weak, so fragile, and so stupid that he can't stand to be in the presence of someone who is remotely close to being his equal. The bar is in hell, and he is limboing underneath it. That's how stupid this guy is. So let's understand what's going on with Iran. Let's understand how we got here. Now, how we got here is pretty simple. You have a fat orange idiot who didn't like a black president, and the first thing that he did when he attained office was tank the Iran nuclear deal that Barack Obama and other allies had negotiated and agreed to. So for those who aren't familiar with the framework of the Iran nuclear deal that Barack Obama had signed, that deal put in the framework that blocked Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. At the time of that agreement, estimates ranged that Iran was 2 to 6 months away from building a nuclear weapon. After the agreement, all pathways to a nuclear weapon were stopped. And that agreement cut off all of the pathways that Iran would have available in creating a nuclear bomb. It blocked enrichment processes at the Natanz facility. It blocked the enrichment process at the Fordo facility. It blocked Iran's ability to create weapons-grade plutonium. And it also blocked Iran's attempts at getting fissile material through covert means. What it also set into place was a framework where every stage of the process that would be required to create a nuclear bomb would be under monitoring by international inspectors. While not a perfect deal, this deal actually put into place a lot of safeguards that would have rendered Iran's nuclear pursuits extremely difficult to achieve. And one of the first things that the orange idiot did when he took office in his first term was tear up that agreement. And that set the stage for where we are now. Because when Dumpy Pants tore up that deal, it removed all the guardrails that were in place and it re-implemented sanctions that were phased out as Iran became more and more compliant with the terms of the nuclear deal. And what you've seen in the second Trump go-around is an escalation that gets us to this point. Even though the nuclear capabilities were destroyed in 2025, we now find ourselves in a bombing campaign and the prospects of having boots on the ground in Iran because the orange idiot is having a temper tantrum. Now, those unprovoked attacks on Iran has obviously been met with retaliation. Iran has been using conventional weapons and taking out U.S. military assets and bases in the region, and they've shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And the fact that the Strait of Hormuz has been shut down has gotten this regime in an absolute panic. And while they're panicking, the only thing that they can think of doing is rage tweeting at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And ever since this war of aggression was launched by the Trump regime, we've seen deadline after deadline come and go with the regime begging Iran for a ceasefire and to reopen the straits. This was supposed to be something that was over and done with in 48 hours, and now we're 6-8 weeks into it with no end in sight. March 21st, there was a 48-hour deadline given. March 23rd, there was a 5-day extension of that deadline. March 27th, the deadline was extended to April 6th. And as these deadlines kept getting levied, you've seen U.S. bases get struck, you've seen U.S. troops get killed, you've seen U.S. equipment getting blown up, you've had to see a rescue operation launched to recover fighter pilots that were downed by the Iranians, even though Iran supposedly had no missile capability and anti-aircraft capability. What this boils down to is that this regime can't be trusted. Nothing that comes out of it can be relied upon, because even the rescue narrative gives big-time Pat Tillman vibes. There are so many things about this supposed rescue that reek of propaganda, and we have yet to see any sort of confirmation that this rescue has actually even taken place. Listen to this from Pete Kegsbreath.
One downed airman evaded capture for more than a day, scaling rugged ridges while hunted by the enemy. When he was finally able to activate his emergency transponder, his first message was simple and it was powerful. He sent a message, God is good. In that moment of isolation and danger, his faith and fighting spirit shone through. You see, shot down on a Friday, Good Friday, hidden in a cave, a crevice, all of Saturday, and rescued on Sunday. Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good.
Might be just me, but it seems like the same line of crap that was thrown out there when Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire during the Bush era. That's what this sounds like to me. And now we've gotten to a place where the Trump regime has whined and cried enough that Iran has agreed to a temporary 2-week ceasefire. But compare and contrast the terms of that ceasefire to the Obama-era Iran deal. This ceasefire commits the U.S. to a fundamental commitment to non-aggression of Iran. It effectively institutes a tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz, where every ship has to pay a toll to Iran to pass through. It restarts Iran's nuclear enrichment program. It clears away all of the resolutions by the IAEA against Iran. It ends all of the resolutions by the UN Security Council against Iran. It requires that the U.S. remove all military personnel from bases all across the region. It requires payment of reparations for the damage that the U.S. has caused. It requires the release of all frozen Iranian assets all around the world. It requires all of these things to be ratified via a binding UN Security Council resolution. I don't know about you, but everything that I just listed off sounds like terms of surrender more than an agreement to a ceasefire. This sounds like something that a loser would agree to when they lose a military conflict. And if we're talking about losers, there's no bigger loser on this planet than the orange idiot occupying the Oval Office. This guy has been a loser since birth. The only reason he's even relevant is because of his daddy's money. And only a country as dumb as the U.S., with a voting population as stupid as the U.S., would elect this guy multiple times to be in charge of pushing the button. This is a complete geopolitical and strategic failure and embarrassment for the U.S. It's going to take decades for the U.S. to recover from the mess that Donald Trump has created again. And we're not even 2 years into his presidency. This is an absolute failure, and the people that have propped him up and the people that have funded him need to pay the price as soon as possible. On top of that, what needs to happen going forward is a massive transformation of American society in general. It is clear that we are, as a society, too stupid to have a baseline understanding of how things work. So there needs to be a focus at all levels of society in educating people on what actual civics looks like and what actual civic life looks like and how basic things work. We are here because we have dumbed down American history. We've dumbed down education to a point where you have 77 million people who line up to vote for this complete imbecile in office. And because that imbecile has been elected twice, we are facing this mess that's in front of us. And the only people that are benefiting from this guy being in charge are the billionaires and the millionaires who hope that this trend continues and the stupid continue to be manipulated into voting against their own interests. For someone who supposedly is a great negotiator, this is a perfect example of what it looks like when an empire shits its pants. And if there's anyone who's an expert in crapping their pants, it's the orange idiot in the Oval Office.